Hi, and thanks for watching the Friends of the Farm lecture series. Each session is designed to deliver a small and in depth dose of cannabis education. My name is Candace Hawes, and I want to thank all of our viewers and customers from the pharmacy, the pottery, and the Natural Healing Center, as well as all of our friends joining us from around the world. Please make sure to hit subscribe so you get notified when we post future cannabis content. Today, we're going to be welcoming Jim Roberts and Brian Adkinson from Bohemian Chemist, who will discuss the importance of preserving land raised cannabis cultivars and what truly defines quality in cannabis. The Bohemian Chemist founders will explore the rich genetic diversity of land raised cannabis strains, which represent the origins of cannabis, discuss the unique traits and the therapeutics of land raised cannabis cultivars, the importance of preserving genetic diversity for future generations. We'll also discuss the industry's focus on high THC levels and why this metric may not always be the best predictor of the strain's quality, therapeutic effects, or overall experience. Our two guests, Jim Roberts and Brian Adkinson, are partners in business and in life, and are the founders, as I said, Bohemian Chemist, the Madrones, and Sugar Hill Farm. Together, they are dedicated to preserving the art and science of cultivating unique and high quality cannabis. Jim is a second generation cannabis cultivator and long term entrepreneur. He runs Sugar Hill Farm in Mendocino's Anderson Valley, showcasing sun grown cannabis and supporting the economic development of Mendocino County's emerging cannabis marketplace. He's passionate about building the region's tourism market while sharing enhancing quality of life for local residents and supporting fellow industry stakeholders. Brian's journey began in hospitality marketing with Walt Disney World before transitioning to mental health, where he served as a suicide prevention program manager for the VA of Northern California. His focus on cannabis therapeutic potential and its intersection with behavioral health work informs his work. With a shared commitment to land-raised genetics and authentic cannabis cultivation methods, Jim and Brian have built Bohemian Chemist into a brand celebrated for its reverence for cannabis' natural origins, dedication to genetic diversity, and focus on education, challenging industry norms around potency and quality. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jim and Brian. I'm so delighted to have you both with us. It was such a pleasure to meet you guys when I went up to Meadowlands just recently and having a chance to tour your Sugar Hill farms. I had a chance to attend your guys' farmers market at the Madrones, and also had a chance to buy some of your guys' fine Bohemian Chemists, like straight from the source. It's a wonderful experience. Also working with was the buddist. We had a chance to do a tasting of your guys' wonderful flower and to really like discover like the sampling notes. It was a really great experience. I'm so looking forward to this discussion that we're going to have today. I think it's really important for consumers in this market to really understand that THC content is like not the most important thing. And I think the work that you guys are doing is so important. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to be here, and we're big fans of the pharmacy and everything that you do. So yeah, we're just excited to be able to share what we do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So tell me, like, I'd love to kind of start before we get into everything. Like, I know that you said that, Jim, that you're a second generation cannabis cultivator. So this kind of like is in your blood. So, did you always kind of foresee yourself doing this? And then after you kind of get into that, Brian, I want to hear like how you kind of found yourself into the cannabis space, because it seems like this is what you guys were meant to do, because you guys are doing something so special.
Yeah, so for me, it's my journey with cannabis started. I'm old, so it started about 4 decades ago. So we're looking at late '70s, early '80s, mostly in high school. So I started out pretty young, and at that time I was in Southern California, and my mom actually was not very judgmental. So, and she was kind of a master gardener, so she started our first plants at that time. In our backyard down there, and then years down the road when I relocated up here, she also had a farm up here, and when she was like in her 70s, decided to go back and start cultivating cannabis, mostly under 215. So she was interested also in the therapeutics with cannabis. She had rheumatoid arthritis, and she cultivated into her 80s. We came up to the farm to take care of her, and then became also the caretakers of the cultivation that was going on up here. And I had a long kind of history as far as being involved in design. I had a design company prior to this. That's why we've had so much fun with our branding and our packaging and what we've done with that. And then as coming here and helping her with harvest and just supporting her and what she was doing on the farm. I also had a landscape business at one time too. So I've always been really passionate about growing plants and gardening. And then when I took this second leg of my journey into really delving into cannabis in a much different way, also being a little bit older, it's something that's completely drawn me in. So I think the further I get down this road about trying to understand the plant, its therapeutics, its morphology, how it grows, the road just seems to get wider in front of me, which means there's just so much to learn.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And what about you, Brian? How did you find yourself into this cannabis path?
Yeah. I mean, I started to use cannabis. I was not, and I was a late bloomer to cannabis. I didn't start using until I was well into my 20s, late 20s, as a matter of fact. And some friends of mine introduced me to it, and after I tried it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It worked its way into our weekly routine, where every Sunday we would smoke cannabis and laugh all day, and then we'd go out that night and drink strawberry daiquiris and eat pizza and just have a great Sunday. So I had to kind of leave cannabis behind when I went into the mental health world, because I would get tested regularly, drug tested. So while I worked at VA, I did not consume cannabis, but a lot of the veterans that I worked with, and many of the veterans I worked with indicated that using cannabis really helped them with their symptoms. So I became interested in this again, especially since my partner was a cultivator. And since I've left the VA, I have started using cannabis again. It is incredibly effective and in the treatment of so many different disorders and diseases, but especially in the treatment of sleep. I mean, I take cannabis religiously every night for sleep. Sleep is so important to your mental health. And so anyway, I'm just glad that I can use this drug again and participate in the culture.
And for both of us, we attend a couple cannabis science conferences every year annually, and it's been great because we'll be able to go there and we'll actually sit in on lectures. And as the information and the research is starting to really take hold, it's amazing to find out what therapeutics and what possible benefits there are from the plant. So we started out in the medicinal space. We definitely have our lines recreational, but we also really believe in the medicinal qualities of the plant and the possible therapeutics. So that's been a big focus for us.
Yeah. And that's what I love about your guys' brand too, is that you are focused on the therapeutics and you are focused on preserving the land race, the land race true origins of the cannabis plant, which I feel like a lot of people are not so much anymore. So I really appreciate that about your guys' brand, and also the packaging and the design. I think is so unique and one of the great qualities too of what you guys do. So many great things about what you guys do.
Well, thank you. I think if we can kind of dive into the land race,
Yes.
right off the bat. So I think, so something, depending on the audience, something to know about landrace. So landrace is basically the original cultivars that were cultivated around the world and domesticated. So actually there was breeding that was happening. There was actually some crossbreeding that was happening, selective breeding that was happening at that time. But these are the old regional cultivars that are from around the globe. And I think for me, my interest started was that I was trying to go back and chase the effects that I had from the cannabis I remembered maybe 4 decades ago. And at that time, almost everything we were getting was imported. It wasn't actually really grown that much domestically. I mean, as I got a little bit older, it was being grown domestically here, but a lot of what we were getting, especially down in Southern California, Laguna Beach was another one area that that a lot of the product was coming in. So I, in kind of reintroducing myself this much later in my life, I just realized that there was something missing that I was kind of remembering, and I think it really had to do with some of these old cultivars. So that's really where it really started to trigger me at first, to try to start looking at these and seeing what's so special about them. And that's kind of started our journey with the preservation work that we're doing right now.
When I was at your guys' facility and I was picking up some of my own find cultivars to try back here in Southern California. I was behind, I believe, like a 70-year-old, 80-year-old lady, and she was so excited to pick up and restock her goods to bring home. And she said, I think she was picking up some Thai stick, and she said, "This is the same when I smoke this at home. I feel just like I did when I was 16. Back in like."
Right.
And that's why she drives like an hour to come and to buy, this product from Bohemian Chemist, and that this brings her back to that same experience and that same feeling that she had when she was 16 back all those years. So it's exactly the same thing that you're talking about, and exactly what you're talking about, preserving that feeling, that effect back from, when people originally tried cannabis. And so I think that's why people really appreciate what you guys are doing and why it's so important. People really don't understand, what we have to learn, from preserving those, cultivars.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get that a lot. I mean, especially in that age range, that people will go back and say, it's just, we call them kind of the old school effects. And what we're finding is that there's a lot of reasons for that too. So part of that has to do with, the way the market has driven cannabis and the direction that it's gone in. People are really chasing super high THC levels. It was also bred so that there'd be more production, aesthetics as far as bud structure, yield would be another thing. Also difficulty to grow. These were all factors that actually kind of took place. And so what we see mostly on the market right now are what we call polyhybrids. So those are actually plants that have been bred and bred and bred, and they're bred for certain reasons that for us are not the most important reasons that we think that that we value in the plant, and that would be the therapeutics and the overall effects. So I think some of the older cultivars, and in our testing also, we found that they really possess some unique traits that are very different than what we have out in the market right now.
They definitely are. Something I really enjoyed when I was at Meadowlands and I was learning about black African gold from the buddhist. They said that cultivar actually has hallucinogenic properties, purportedly from the locals who use that cultivar. And I can see it, from people that don't use cannabis very often, and imagine them like in the African plains in the middle of the night, smoking that cultivar could actually make you feel, somewhat hallucinogenic, and, experiencing that myself, it did feel a little bit, different and unique from other, cultivars that I've tried. And I loved it. It was very, very unique and very special. And I really enjoyed it. And I went through that pretty quickly. I have to say, I really liked that one. I liked learning about it. I thought it was really special, and I wish there was more things like that out there. I feel like this is very much the same and nothing special about it, but I felt like that story and that experience is very special.
Candace, Black African Magic is hands down, I think, our favorite and our most popular cultivar. And similar to what you said, I describe it to people as being extremely creative. Like, this is what I want to take when I want to start trying to paint or write or go into some creative process. It just really expands my awareness in a way that I just haven't found in other cultivars. And I think that's in large part because it's a landrace and it has some of these unique cannabinoids in it that have been bred out of other cannabis, primarily because they're growing for yield or for cosmetic reasons. So,
that actually was we have a huge seed vault, basically, of different cultivars. We probably have maybe 300 to 400 different varieties that we have in our seed vault that are all landrace. And that one in particular was gifted to us from a very well-known breeder, kind of a globetrotter, someone that does a lot of work in the cannabis space. And he was actually coming back from the Seychelles and going through Africa, and one of his Rastafarian friends actually says, "I got seeds of the Black African Magic," and that is like one of the 5 or 6 rarest strains on the planet. So it's very sought after. It's kind of mythical. I think some of the things that in my research I found that they did, part of it was a curing method, which they did almost a fermentation method of curing on it, which we're going to be trying as we're going to be releasing our Thai sticks and our shaman sticks this coming season. So we're going to be treating this and curing it a little bit differently. And that actually kind of intensifies the effects of the flower itself. So But I feel like every cultivar that we have has kind of a unique story that's behind it.
That's so cool. You guys have to make a book, like a little coffee table. You really do. And I know you guys could make the most beautifully bound one too, that people would really pay to have like sitting there and tell the story of each one of your guys' cultivars and like how you guys had to procure it and preserve it and like the different characteristics of how it actually, grows. Cause we might talk about that too. And like how, indicas typically grow a certain way, but you have found in your own research and, that some are actually opposite of what we typically know, which is very interesting. So that could go in the book too, because you guys are learning a lot from, your preservation that it goes against our typically, our typical knowledge. So that's very interesting. So kind of skipping ahead of like what I wanted to know, but my questions, but we kind of went into that. So how do you procure these cultivars? You kind of went into that already, that someone had gifted you the seeds. And I don't know if you can really go into it too much, but in general, how do you guys get all these landrace cultivars? Because it's generally very hard to find them.
It is. We've actually, as far as our library, our vault of seeds, a lot of them have been gifted to us from other collectors. We also go through a lot of research when we're actually procuring something. I think with the internet, the way that it is right now, it's actually, there's a lot of accessibility for some of these landrace, and there are preservationists. It's a small group, but around the globe, there's a lot of people that are doing this work, which we think is super valuable and super important. So for us, even if we take a cultivar like Panama Red or Blue Dream, Blue Dream's a really good example. There can be so many different Blue Dreams that are on the market, and a lot of them are not really a true Blue Dream. So this year I went through a lot of work of researching, and I found some of the original cuts that were done. It originated in Santa Cruz. So there's a place called the Goat Farm down in Santa Cruz that had been working on the Blue Dream cultivar, and actually had the origins, had done the work, had actually been keeping the original Blue Dream alive. So that's what we grew out this year. And the same thing with like Panama Red. So we grew out a Panama Red last season. The one that we grew this season was from another breeder down in the Santa Cruz area that had been working on this cultivar for about 15 years. And he was selectively taking plants that had high CBD content in it. Panama Red was known to have pretty good levels of CBD, along with some other minor cannabinoids. So that's what we grew out this year. We just got it in not too long ago. So most of our farmer friends up in the Emerald Triangle have all their crops in right now. We're going to be harvesting again tomorrow, because we kind of gravitate towards these late flowering and long flowering sativas. Anyway, we're really excited with what we're bringing in at this point. But a lot of it's just kind of collectively breeding. I think if people are interested in this, the thing I would say is that if you're going to be growing at home, really do your homework, really vet, go on to chat forums, follow people on social media, and really vet out, because there's a lot of people that are pushing genetics or saying that it's Acapulco Gold or Panama Red or Blue Dream, and it's really not the true genetics. So we're looking at trying to find those true genetics.
And we learned that by trial and error.
We did.
So we purchased some seeds that we thought were Blue Dream, and then clearly after we planted and grew it and tested it, that wasn't the case. It just didn't follow the appropriate terpene profile to be Blue Dream. So yeah, what Jim said, you just have to be very careful. And Jim does the research. He is so passionate about this, almost too passionate. We have so many different plants in our garden, and they all have to be we have to be concerned with compliancy for them. You know what I mean? So the metric part of this, which I take care of, can cause me to pull my hair out sometimes because of the amount of cultivars he has in the garden. But it's his passion, and we're happy to do it.
Yeah, we grew over just this year alone, we grew over 50 different cultivars, and between my farm and then my brother's farm, which he had recently sold. But and it's a lot of those were landrace. We also are doing some of our own hybridizing too. But we're hybridizing with true landraces. So we had those growing too. And then we also have done a lot of work with minor cannabinoids. So we're very interested in finding profiles that, let's go beyond just that THC that everybody's looking at. The plant has over 550 different chemical compounds in it. Why are we paying attention to just one? We know that's the one that actually is psychoactive. Yep. But there are others that actually I think are part of this symphony of what you're going to experience, and I don't think the market's paying enough attention to that. So we're I think that's the thing that really made me gravitate once again back to these land racers or these old school cultivars, because I remember the effects being very, very different. Like a sativa, a lot of people say, well, it really makes me anxious, or makes me very paranoid. I get very jittery. Well, there are sativas that are like the haze that we grew this year that may have that effect for some people. But I think if you find some of the old sativas and they're grown properly, and I think that will mitigate some of those. Also, if they have complementary cannabinoids such as CBD, or we had a couple sativas that had pretty measurable amounts of CBG in the 4 to 5% range, along with THC. That's a really nice balance. So that's actually going to really kind of cut that. So you'll have a cultivar that will give you that uplifting, kind of fun, happy feeling, very enjoyable, but without the paranoia. Yeah. So that's a lot of what's kind of driving us here. Not only about keeping these genetics alive, because we are older, and we know that with the way the market's going right now, there's been so much hybridizing and so much breeding that we're losing so many genetics, that at some point this is going to be a toolbox that others are going to really want. And we feel that it's important to keep that alive. And I think that's what most preservationists, that's what they feel about with that they're doing this work, because it's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of thankless work. It's hard to market these. The bud structure is very loose sometimes. It's unattractive. It's odd looking, but the effects may be very, very special. So
yeah, and it has been difficult. When we initially started our process and started going into the market, everyone was so focused on THC, and if you didn't have 30% or more, a lot of stores wouldn't buy it.
Right.
And that wasn't our focus. And so luckily enough, we had another business that could allow us to continue our cannabis business while the market caught up to what we're doing. And I guess what's refreshing now is we are seeing stores, especially the pharmacy store in Santa Barbara and Santa Ynez, they're buying a lot of our flower, and they want the flower that has some of the lower THC percentages, but some of these more interesting cannabinoid profiles. So we're actually seeing the market catch up with what we're doing, and that's exciting for us.
Yeah. And Santa Barbara, or actually Southern California in particular, we have some shops down there, and we'll have our full menu. And like Acapulco Gold this year, I mean, that's a potent old school cultivar, but it's close to 30%. And a lot of them will look at the menu and say, no, we want the things that are actually from 18 to 22%.
Right.
Because there is definitely a market that's interested in that. And we feel that those that may have a high tolerance for THC, I think trying some of these cultivars that actually have a much more balanced or broader cannabinoid or full spectrum cannabinoid profile with other minors in them may actually really kind of mix things up a little bit with their own endocannabinoid system, and actually give them kind of a different experience than what they're getting. They may be a little bit in a rut, so to speak.
Yeah.
No, I get a lot of people coming in and asking about these older, like Landrace cultivars that they are familiar with that actually have the lower THC, because they don't want to get really intoxicated. They just want, like we were talking about, the more therapeutic benefits. In previous webinars, we had Nate Winokur from Bell Costa Labs, and they actually did a test probably about a year ago, where it was a blind test where they had a couple different people sample different cultivars and number them based on like the effect, and they found that it was actually a 10-to-1 terpene to THC ratio that had the best effect. Not the highest THC, but that you needed a balanced effect, and that people actually, the judges actually preferred the cultivars that had the lower and the more proportionate THC to terpene ratio. And they actually didn't prefer the ones with the higher THC and the disproportionate, terpene to THC effect, exactly the same thing that we're saying. And, which makes sense, because like, of course, you could buy like flour that's been pumped full of, nutrients and stuff, and has that hard, dense, nice look, but it doesn't always give you the best feeling, it's
right. Exactly. And we also
naturally grown.
Yeah. And we also feel that, the market, especially I think in Southern California, it's kind of the indoor market's kind of prized. And that's actually really been the narrative down there. So for us being full-term sun-grown cultivators, it's been a little bit of a lift for us, but we really feel that also the environment that a plant is grown in. California is going to be launching the Appalachian program, which is going to be the first of its kind outside of wine in California for a crop, and that's because it's really been proven that cannabis does change its chemical profile depending on where and how it's grown. So if I grow a certain cultivar that I've been growing for years on my farm, and then I have a fellow friend that's a farmer that's maybe inland that grows it, our testing will be completely different. The terpenes could be different on that. Just the chemistry of the plant could be different. So it's really soaking up the environment that it's growing in. And I think the other thing that we're doing is that we're doing full term cannabis. So a lot of the indoor places that are growing right now, they're on a cycle of maybe 3 to 4 months. They're turning out a new crop every 3 to 4 months or so. We started our plants in February of last year. So we're looking at 9 to 10 months that our plants are in the ground with their feet in the ground. Our plants are almost, a lot of them, Brian, we just took a picture of Brian in front of this watermelon hash plant, which is like a Himalayan variety that we still have out there. We're going to be harvesting it tomorrow. And it's almost 18 feet high. Yeah. I mean, it's an enormous plant. And I think for commercial viability, that's just too hard to deal with. People want things that are going to be heavy yielders, lower to the ground, have characteristics that's going to be market driven. And for us, we're really trying to actually find something that's a unicorn, that's very, very special, but in a very, very different way.
Yeah. What you guys are doing is very special in a very different way. That's for sure. Like the love when you go there, like you guys love every single different plant, all the different cultivars that you've picked for every different, particular reason, what you're learning from each individual one. I mean, even everyone can see on the screen here, like the picture from like Sugar Hill Farm. It's just such a gorgeous, special place. What you guys are doing is like so special and so gorgeous. And I think the whole community up in Northern California, what you guys do, like working together, like supporting each other, like even like sharing the genetics and like, preserving what's like really important, even like trying to share that message like to the whole rest of the consumer market, and really like sharing with the patients. It's not just high THC. That's not the most important thing. That's not going to deliver the therapeutic benefits. And especially like even for like you're talking about like for those like veterans and those with like a serious medical need, like THC isn't going to get you what you need. It's those minor cannabinoids and, it's these landrace cultivars that probably have the potential to deliver those minor cannabinoids, probably this potential.
No, absolutely. And, we work with physicians as well as scientists. So, and one of the scientists that we were working with, she had the oldest testing lab in the country, and has since actually retired from that, but she was amazing to work with. She did a lot of our early veg testing, which means we tested the plants at a very early stage at about 69 to 82 days. And from there, we could kind of get a snapshot of what our cannabinoid profiles would look like at harvest. So at that point, we're looking for unicorns. And one of the minor cannabinoids, which she was telling us through studies, some initial studies, are 10 to 20 times more effective than an SSRI. And we kind of think of CBC as that euphoric, cannabinoid. So that it's very elusive, really difficult to find in plants. Our Black African Magic, we've been selecting for it, and we've seen it in the early stages, and we'll find out at this harvest whether or not it actually comes through to the final stages, but that's what we're hoping for.
That's so special. I'm so glad that you guys, that you guys are doing this for the community and for patients. I'm so glad that you guys are here too, that you're sharing this with everybody. Now, if people wanted to be able to come and to visit your guys' facility and like learn a little bit more and be able to experience what I was so lucky to be able to experience for myself. This is a picture here of Sugar Hill Farm. Now, this isn't something that everybody would be able to experience for themselves, but there are parts of your guys' business that they could be able to experience. Could you guys tell us a little bit more about the Madrones and about your guys' licensed facility and about the farmers market that you guys have? Could you guys tell us about how people could support you guys and the great work that you guys do?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Madrones is our boutique hotel that's located in Anderson Valley, which is actually known for its Pinot Noir wine. It's a very unique small valley in that it is more positioned east and west towards the coast than north and south. And what that does is it actually sucks the fog in at night. So we get these really, really cool, damp nights. And then the fog is pushed out during the day. So we get these really hot days. It makes it the ideal environment to grow Pinot Noir wine. And we think the ideal environment to grow cannabis as well. I'm very proud to say that our hotel is part of the Cannabis Trail, as is our Bohemian Chemist apothecary. We opened the apothecary in about 2020,
right at the time of the pandemic.
Right at the pandemic, yeah.
Beautiful.
So, and it was interesting when we created our line and our apothecary. Our typical customer is a bougie wine person, so we knew we had to create something that was going to be palatable and approachable to that kind of customer. And I think that we really succeeded. We were working in the shop itself a lot during COVID in 2020 because we wanted to let our staff off. And I found it interesting. They would initially, a lot of times a couple would come in, they would be initially reluctant to go into the apothecary. And then usually the husband or the wife, without the other spouse, one of them would come in alone saying, I did this in high school and I'm kind of interested in trying it again. And
or my shoulder hurts.
Or my shoulder hurts and I need sleep. I told Jim, I'm like, I think we should rename ourselves the Gateway Hotel because we're reintroducing cannabis to so many people. And a lot of those guests have returned now. They've came back and they actually want to come back, experience the plant in a more direct way. And so that's why we started these cannabis weekends, cannabis friendly weekends. The third Saturday and Sunday of every month, from about April or May until October, November, we would invite the guests that stayed in the hotel that wanted to come up to our farm and get a farm tour on Saturday, check out the plants, see how they're doing, interact on a real outdoor cannabis farm. And then on the Sunday, we invited the other local farmers to come in for an actual cannabis farmers market. And so the other farmers were there, so you can meet the farmer, you can meet the person that grows your cannabis, which is so important. So you know that what their growing practices are and what they're doing. You can meet that farmer and then you can purchase some stuff from the dispensary and have a great weekend.
And that's part of our commitment to our community up here. The community here has been around for so long in the Emerald Triangle. I mean, we're talking decades here, and now you have second, third generation family members that are actually cultivating. And with the rollout in California, it's been very, very challenging for them. So having these markets and actually supporting them, because we do feel like a family, and we feel like these are people that need to have a seat at the table. They have a very interesting story to tell. They have institutional and generational knowledge. They have the genetics. They have something very, very special. So for us, it's important for us to, it's not going to be very enjoyable if we're one of the only ones left standing in this marketplace as it is right now. So we think that there's a place for all players, the larger players too. I know Glasshouse does a really good job. And I think that, just having a place for everybody there is super, super important. So they all have interesting stories to tell, and just a lot of knowledge, and more than anything else, just a love for the plant.
Full restaurant on facility as well, right? So people can stay, they can eat, they can shop for wonderful goods besides just the wonderful cannabis goods, but you have a wonderful boutique on site. So even if you have a partner who's not a cannabis enthusiast, there's something for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
So we have the luxury accommodations. We have two wineries on the property that are actually independently owned and operated. They're both kind of family wineries. Then we have a gift shop that's there, our lounge that's there, and then so it's pretty contained, and it's also walking distance to a couple other really renowned wineries that are close by.
And I don't know if you heard the part where we were discussing our cannabis friendly weekends that are the third weekend in the spring to the fall. So from about April, May until October, November, we'll have a cannabis friendly weekend when we actually invite people to come up and stay with us. On Saturday, they can come up here to Sugar Hill Farm and actually see a real cannabis farm, interact with the plant. And then on the Sunday, we have the market where you can meet the local farmers, which is so important. I mean, meeting the person that grows what you're consuming, what better way to become familiar with the plant, what it does, and the growing practices of some of these amazing farmers.
But that given the case, we are out in the country, as you can tell by our internet.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful drive too. It's not too far from SFO. So if people were to, fly into the Bay Area, it's a gorgeous drive, nice, relaxing, definitely worth cannabis tourism, taking a wonderful long weekend. I love the special cannabis weekend that you guys have set aside where you can actually tour the real farm. I think that's a wonderful idea. More and more people are doing that nowadays, just expanding their knowledge, learning something. It's kind of intersecting with that wellness, instead of going and, just spending a bunch of money, you're actually bettering your life, and learning about, something more natural. I love what you guys are doing. I'm so glad that, we're making you guys' product available. And I hope that we carry it more widely at all of our stores so people don't have to drive so far to procure your guys' wonderful product. I love it. Every time I'm in Santa Barbara, Isla Vista, I always have to pick up your guys' wonderful dark blue packaging. You guys do everything with such love and care. And I appreciate so much the love that you guys have for cannabis and preserving like the Landrace Cannabis, because it's so special and it brings us such important qualities and therapeutics to us.
Thank you. Yes, we really appreciate that. We just did a fresh drop to the Santa Barbara store yesterday. So we brought in Acapulco Gold and Mindo Afghan Skunk, which was supposed to be the roadkill, but it wasn't because I remember what the roadkill was. But it's still an amazing skunk that's there. And then I think we also had Root Beer Freeze, which is actually a hybrid from Mean Gene up here. He's an amazing breeder, and it smells just like root beer, which is kind of crazy.
And Mudbite Delight.
And Mudbite Delight's another one that we have there too. That's an old Alaskan cultivar, and we brought Panama Red down too. But so we really appreciate what your team does, and I think it's been a great thing to be able to share it with you, and we hope that we can maybe get in a couple of the other stores. But if not, folks can, if they have any questions, please reach out. The other thing that we're doing too is we have a program now that we're categorizing all of our flower, and we've been working with Dr. Gene Tellerand, and he's amazing. So it's Discover Your Color. And now all of our jars will be color coded. And what they've done is they've taken over 30,000 tests, and they've actually compiled the data with that, and actually have really categorized it for effects by terpene profiles. And a lot of our flower, they found our farm was an outlier out of a lot of the ones that there's 2 or 3 farms up here. Ours was one of them that were kind of outliers because we were having terpene clusters that were being lost in the market, like terpinolene and pinene. We've had a lot of physicians ask us for high pinene, which is Blue Dream. That's, you think of Blue Dream. Mudbite Delight also came out as super high pinene. And we have another one we call Molokai Frost, which is a really rare pine cultivar that also has very high pinene too. So those are ones that you just don't see in the market. But those are very feel-good cultivars, that pinene really is a really good feel-good terpene. So, So if folks are familiar with our product, you'll see a little bit different labeling. You'll see a QR code now. We also have in every jar we put a slip in there to take a survey. So there's a QR code, and if people take the time, we're compiling. We have over 200 responses already on specific cultivars and what their effects were like and how people experienced them. That data is going to be compiled, and we're going to be pushing it out on our website so that people can go on. And just keep in mind that your metabolism, everybody's metabolism is unique. So what may affect me one way or may affect someone else another way, that's going to depend on their metabolism, and what we think of as an indica can actually have a sativa effect and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So this is the way that you can find your color. You can find a group of cultivars within a color range that actually really work for you.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about the Find Your Color program, but I'm really glad that you went a little bit further into it. And so people can find a little bit more on your guys' website too.
They can, or you can also Google Discover Your Color, and that's actually a great way to kind of do an overview. And then we're going to be implementing that, and we're going to do another round on our website as far as an updating, where that's actually going to talk about that whole system. And what happens is our COA, which is our certificate of analysis, our final testing on the product that has our terpene panels on it, goes into a database, and actually an algorithm is taken, and then from that, they actually categorize it into 4 different color ranges. So they kind of match up with what we think of as hybrid sativa indica, but it really is, it's more data driven, and it is, I think, a much better language. So when people can come in, they can really search for their colors that they like, or at least search for a color that creates a certain effect for them. And maybe they say, well, I really love Blue Dream, I'm always going to buy Blue Dream. And it's like, well, maybe I should look at something else in the green category that actually has a very similar effect and try something different.
And they're starting out with 4 colors to keep it simple, but as the process continues, they're going to expand the number of colors, so that people can really start to maybe do effects pairing, which is something that we're a goal of ours. Like, this is the perfect cannabis to take to do a hike in Hendy Woods, and this is the perfect cannabis that you should take before you go out to this fantastic meal, and this is the cannabis to take before you have to put up with your family over Thanksgiving. So
or
all different types of use.
I love that. I think that makes sense too, because I think it is very hard for people to move away from the indica sativa hybrid to over to the terpenes, because there is so many terpenes and it is harder for people to understand. So it is kind of in the middle, moving people that direction. And we definitely need to move them away from just the indica sativa hybrid. So it is moving that direction, and I think that it is a good thing. So I like I said, I've heard of a little bit, and I definitely encourage people to learn more. And I think that it's an excellent thing to find what works for you best, because sometimes people, like you said, use one thing that's just not for them and they just move away from cannabis. So finding the right dose and the right cultivar, the right minor cannabinoids and cannabinoids for you will give you the best benefit outcome.
And it's important that I know your staff's really good about this too, is that we really want to have people have a really good experience. So having a knowledgeable staff and steering them into the right direction, and being having very open ears onto what they're looking for, I think is super important. But this is really just another tool. And the cool thing with these land races that I'm finding terpene profiles and aromas that I haven't even found in the market experience. So there's just like our chocolate Thai this year and our Oaxaca Gold just have these amazing terpene profiles that I just haven't experienced before. So it's very exciting.
That's true. When I was in your guys's in the Madrones, when I was lined up waiting to make my purchase, I was like, I haven't smelled that for the longest time. I was like, I'm getting that. I haven't smelled that for the longest time. I'm going to get that. I haven't smelled that for the longest time, because I've been smoking for a while too. So yeah, it was like terpene essences I hadn't smelled for many, many years. So very special stuff. Quick question: what are your guys' favorite cultivars that you guys?
So the Black African Magic is one, and then we crossed it with one we called
favorite.
Yeah,
African Gold.
I really enjoyed that one too.
And there's another one that's Hedonia that we did, and that was a 411. So that actually had about 16% THC, and then it had matching THCV and CBG in it too, of about 4 to 5%. So I crossed that with Black African Magic. This new cultivar, which we're going to call the Magician, is amazing. So it's 2 land races that are been crossed to each other. So that one's we're going to be introducing into the market. We're very, very excited about it. And so much of what we're bringing in right now, we go through a very long cure process. So I haven't tried everything. It's very important at this point, at this stage of the game, that we make sure that the product finishes in a proper way. So it's one thing about cultivating, and it's a whole another how you treat it and cure it. And we go through a long process. We also pack everything in argon, which is an inert gas that's actually used in winemaking. It takes all the oxygen out of the environment. So it keeps that, since we only do one crop a year, it keeps it super fresh. But anyway, so we're looking forward to the cure process being finished, and we just got some remarkable things that we grew this year that we're very excited about, and we hope we get some feedback from others on it too.
I would add that the other one that I really like, back to your question, the other one that I really liked is Weederall. I have ADD. I don't have the hyperactivity part of it, but I do have attention deficit disorder. And the Weederall really helps me focus. It's incredibly useful. If I need to sit down and get a project done, I'll smoke a little of that. It focuses me, it brings me into the project. And then when the high comes off, there's no residual effects from it at all.
It's very clean. It's
really clean.
Really clean and very functional. That's our own cultivar that we bred at the farm. It's a 1-to-1 with THCV and THC. So we also have it in a vape cart. And this season we're going to be going to solventless. So we're pretty excited about that. And then we're going to be coming out with a sublingual pastel. So that's actually like a Torquay. They use these a lot in Europe, and it's a lozenge.
Yeah.
So the delivery system on this, we have so many people asking us, for product, but they said, we don't want to smoke, and we, are older, or they have other reasons not to. So the way that this is administered is sublingual, so it's under the tongue. It's going to go directly into the bloodstream, so it's going to have a rapid effect. It's not going to be an edible. It's going to actually have the effect that you would have with flower without actually having to have an inhalable. And so these pastels, and they're all going to be solventless. So this is going to be one of the cleanest processes that you can have with taking your closest thing to fresh flower. And so we're going to be putting these into the pastels. So look for those probably around the first quarter of next year.
It's like smoking flower without smoking it.
Right.
Is it going to be like a buccal delivery system, like where you can put like into your cheek too, or underneath your tongue?
Yeah. It could also go under your cheek too. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. There's not very many edibles that are like a buccal delivery method too, that you can put in your cheek, underneath your tongue. That'll be very popular, especially if it tastes good, because there's not very many have like a pleasant kind of taste. And you guys are the best at quality, dialing everything in. So I could see that being something really exciting.
Thinking about that, when you have an edible, you got to put on your seatbelt. You're into it for a while, and I think a lot of people
ride.
A lot of people are just entering the market. They want to gravitate towards an edible, and then they take it. And this actually has a rapid onset, so you know exactly what you're getting into. And it also has a shorter lifespan. So an edible is going to be up to 4 to 6 hours. This is actually going to last a couple hours or so, and then you're good to go on and do whatever else you want to do in that day, So
and I don't get me wrong, I love an edible. I love to have an edible, and especially if I know if I'm going in a specific environment where I have the luxury to be able to be high for that 3 or 4 hours or whatever it is. So not saying anything disparaging about the edible market. We're just saying that this particular method of administration is a quicker onset, and the bioavailability, so the amount of THC actually getting your system, is much greater than something that goes through the digestive system.
It doesn't go through the gut or the liver. So, and it's about 3 times the amount of absorption or bioavailability of the cannabinoid than an edible is.
Yeah, so we're super excited. You got to give them a try. Yeah. We'll send you some as soon as or we'll bring you some as soon as we.
And it's nice. It gives you options depending on what kind of time period you have, what kind of delivery method you want. And what's nice also too about the buccal or the sublingual delivery method is you don't have to really worry about drug interactions, because you're using a different pathway as well.
Right.
So many different advantages there. So I love to hear about that. That what's coming down the road for you guys. Always exciting stuff. That's why I love to talk to you guys. Well, this has been so just enlightening, and I love what you guys are doing. And if anybody is close to Anderson Valley or to Pharmacy Santa Barbara, Isla Vista, definitely run out and get yourself some of the new Farm Fresh, or the new Fresh Drop, I should say, because, you need some time to get everything packaged and cured that you guys just processed. But definitely check out what you guys have released from Bohemian Chemist. It's always something wonderful, always something very, very special. Definitely support what you guys have coming down the road. And like I said, start working on that coffee table book. If you have any time, which I know you don't have much of because you guys are always doing something. But that's something that would be another really, really great project, to get that all written down and recorded, to preserve that cannabis history and all that you've learned, somewhere. And thank you guys so much, for being with me and spending this time and, sharing all this information and knowledge with everybody that's been watching today and that will continue to watch. Thank you guys so much for all the work that you're doing too, to preserve this important part of cannabis history for everybody.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. Educating the public is so important, especially in terms of I don't want to say it's the myth of THC, but just this plant is so much more complex than this one psychoactive ingredient, and you're really bringing that to the public, and it's appreciated. So thanks.
And we appreciate all those that listened in today, and if there's anything that they have questions about or whatever, let us know. But we're really appreciative of your customers and those folks that have actually listened in today.
And if people have questions for us directly that they want to ask, they can shoot us an email. I'm Brian, BRIAN, at thebohemianchemist.com, and Jim is Jim, JIM, at thebohemianchemist.com. So feel free to shoot us an email. We'll be happy to correspond with you.
And then somebody's asking, what was the name of the sublingual product, the pastille that they should look out for in the future?
So those will be labeled pastels. Mm-hmm. So they'll be sublingual elixir pastels. We worked with our product designer, which is down in Long Beach, and she's helped us with the packaging. It's really cool. It comes in a cobalt blue kind of hexagon jar, and yeah, we're pretty excited about it. And then we'll be packaging it with this color coding system that the Discover Your color coding system on it too. So
yeah, it'll take us a minute to get them on the market because we have to actually get the formulation done. So, but this year probably 4 or 5 months. I'm thinking, right?
At the most, I'm thinking probably first quarter. So we're on board right there. So.
And then you could also email Jim and Brian with the emails that they just gave you and kind of follow up in a couple months and see like maybe what close retailer might be carrying that product or any of their other fine products, which I definitely recommend. But again, thank you guys for the kind words. Definitely happy to share this education and so appreciative of everything you guys are doing. Love, love, love what you guys are doing. I cannot wait to plan my next vacation to go see you guys again and bring some people with me. I'll pack up a bus and come on down. Definitely recommend it if anybody needs to take their next vacation. Like I said, you don't have to be a cannabis consumer. You can bring your partner with you if they don't use cannabis. There's tons of other things to do. But like you said, they might just be like, well, in high school, I actually used to use cannabis and my elbow hurts, and they might end up in that dispensary anyways because it's, makes everybody feel comfortable because it is such a gorgeous place, You guys do wonderful things. And I'm so happy to have you guys on. And thank you guys, everybody, for watching today. This has been a really wonderful episode. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Friends of the Farm lecture series. I hope that we were able to share some information with everybody that will help you become better informed cannabis consumers, and that the information that we have provided you helps you become better informed patients, and this information will help you find relief. Until next time, I hope you guys all have a wonderful and safe day, and that you stay safe and well.
Great. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.